You begin this journey in a universe that is no longer young. You float in a calm, dark expanse where time feels stretched and open, like a slow breath held by something ancient. All around you, the stars that once burned with fierce determination now glow softly, as if they are tired from the long story of existence they have carried. Their brilliance is still there, but their edges have softened, becoming gentle, warm, and almost tender in their fading. You let your body relax into that dim light, allowing it to hold you like a quiet lullaby from the past. As you drift, you imagine that each star is an old lantern hanging in the night sky. Once, they were bright enough to shape galaxies, sculpting the very architecture of worlds. Now, their flames flicker low, whispering that even the most powerful forces in the cosmos eventually find rest. You sense that rest deep inside your own breath, as though the universe is reminding you that endings do not have to be abrupt. They can be peaceful, like a slow dusk settling over a familiar landscape. You move closer to one of these aging stars. Its surface trembles with a reddish glow, a sign that its fuel is nearly gone. But it does not feel frightening. Instead, it feels like watching the last embers of a dying fire, glowing beautifully in their final moments. The star expands softly, growing more delicate with each breath of helium it burns. Its core contracts, its outer layers pulse, and you feel the rhythm of its long life echoing through your own chest. This star is not fighting its fate. It is settling into it, embracing a quiet that has been waiting for billions of years. You think about how stars are born from clouds of dust and gas, how they ignite, shine, warm, and eventually dim. Their lives are long, but still finite. And in that finiteness, there is something deeply comforting. You realize that the universe itself lives by cycles, not commands, by gentle transitions, not sudden breaks. The cooling star before you is not collapsing into darkness. It is simply offering its last light to the cosmos it helped shape. As you watch, you become aware of the space between stars. It stretches farther than you imagined, like an ocean of stillness that has been slowly widening as the universe expands. Everything drifts apart over time, not out of rejection but out of the natural movement of cosmic history. The galaxies you once knew as bright spirals now appear pale and faint, like watercolors left in the sun too long. Their colors fade into shades of silver and smoke. You sense the universe leaning toward quiet, as though preparing itself for a long night of rest. You turn your gaze back to the star you have been following. Its glow dims slightly more, and you let yourself drift closer. You can almost feel the temperature drop, though the vacuum around you holds no air for warmth or cold. Yet somehow your mind registers the change. This is the cooling of a sun nearing the end of its long journey. It is like watching the last candle in a once crowded room burn low while everyone else sleeps. The universe around you grows softer in its darkness. There are no sudden movements, no rush of violence or collapse. Only an immense, patient unfolding. You feel as though you are listening to a story told in long, quiet sentences. Each moment lingers, stretching slightly before it releases into the next. The star's final light reaches your eyes, and for a moment, it feels like you are touching something ancient, something that has carried its own memories through billions of years. You allow yourself to imagine those memories. You picture this star in its youth, bright and confident, forming planets and stirring them into motion. You imagine the comets that passed near it, the dust that once circled it like a shimmering halo. You imagine life, perhaps not here, but somewhere, influenced by its warmth. All of that is part of its long story, and now you witness its closing chapter. And yet, this ending does not feel sorrowful. It feels wise, knowing, and deeply serene. You breathe slowly, matching the star's fading rhythm. You realize that in its last moments, the star becomes something new. A reminder that the universe is always shifting, always softening, always becoming. Nothing disappears abruptly here. Everything transitions gently into the next phase, even if that phase is quieter, colder, or darker than before. As the star prepares to dim completely, you feel your thoughts slow until they settle like fine dust at the bottom of your mind. The light becomes faint, like a memory slipping into the quiet of your mind just before sleep. You watch it flicker one last time, and then it stabilizes into a soft, red glow, barely visible but comforting in its persistence. You understand now that stars do not simply vanish. They become stories etched into the fabric of time. Their remnants will cool into white dwarfs, darken into black dwarfs, and eventually blend into the silent background of the universe. But their influence remains, carried gently by the particles and photons they once released. As the star grows quiet, you drift backward, allowing the darkness to wrap itself around you. You feel no fear. Instead, you feel held by the vastness, supported by a cosmic calm that has taken trillions of years to form. The night around you is not empty. It is full of the soft exhalations of dying stars, each contributing to a universe that is slowly entering a quieter, more contemplative stage. You float a little farther into that quiet, letting the dimming star become a small dot behind you. Ahead, the darkness thickens, but it does not feel heavy. It feels like a blanket, woven from the remnants of everything that has ever shined. You realize you are entering the early moments of a cosmic twilight, a time when galaxies will fade and the universe will begin to forget its own brightness. Yet even as this thought settles, you feel a gentle tug of curiosity. You wonder what happens to these dimming galaxies, how they stretch and dissolve under the slow pull of expansion. You wonder what lies beyond this fading starlight. And with that curiosity, you drift quietly toward the next chapter of the universe's story, wondering how the long twilight of galaxies will unfold. You move slowly through a region of space where galaxies appear softer than you remember. Their once bright spirals now resemble faint smudges, as though someone has gently blurred the edges of creation. You hover in a pocket of stillness, watching the thin light stretch across widening distances. Everything feels elongated, as if the cosmos has taken a long breath and forgotten to release it. You can sense the universe growing older, not through noise or collapse, but through a gradual thinning, like morning mist drifting apart under a rising sun. As you float forward, you notice how the shapes of galaxies have changed. Long ago, they spun confidently, flinging starlight across enormous distances. Now, their disks look loose and tired, as though the stars inside them have grown too weary to keep the pattern sharp. Clusters that once shimmered densely now glow like fading embers scattered across blackness. You imagine touching one of those distant lights, feeling it tremble with the effort of continuing to shine. There is no urgency here, only a deep, patient unfolding that reveals the slow quieting of cosmic activity. You drift near a galaxy that once resembled the Milky Way. Its arms are stretched thin, drawn outward by the accelerating expansion of space. The stars within it drift farther from one another, breaking the delicate symmetry that once defined its spiral heart. You sense how expansion behaves not like wind or force, but like a soft reshaping of space itself, increasing the distance between everything without pushing anything directly. It feels almost like watching the surface of a calm pond gradually widen, its edges slipping quietly away from the center without causing ripples. Inside this pale galaxy, you see fewer bright stars than before. The regions that once produced new stars, rich with gas and dust, have emptied with time. You watch clouds that once glowed with promise now appear faint and transparent, lacking the material needed to ignite new suns. Star formation slows to a crawl, then becomes a rarity, then nearly stops. In this long twilight, even the most determined pockets of gas struggle to gather themselves into anything new. It feels like witnessing the end of a story whose final pages are written in increasingly delicate strokes. You move deeper into the galaxy, letting the dim light guide you. The stars you pass seem quieter than those in younger eras. They burn steadily but with a fragility that touches you. Many are small red dwarfs, long-lived and patient, their fires barely flickering over trillions of years. These stars hold on the longest, but even they offer a gentler glow now, as if honoring the cosmic night that slowly approaches. Their soft light feels comforting, like embers glowing in a distant cabin fireplace long after the rest of the world has gone still. As you drift toward the galaxy's outer edges, you notice how space itself feels thinner. The darkness between stars has widened, becoming an ocean where light travels longer distances before touching anything. You feel the loneliness of photons crossing such vast emptiness, carrying memories of their origins across billions of years. Some of this light will never reach another star, planet, or eye. It will spread endlessly, fading into the stretched fabric of the universe. You sense the bittersweet beauty of that journey, light fulfilling its purpose simply by existing, even when no one receives it. You pause and let your attention settle on the galaxy's center. Once, supermassive black holes anchored these luminous structures, feeding on gas and stars and shaping the rhythms of their environments. Now, the central region appears calm, almost serene. With little gas left to consume, even black holes rest in a state of quiet waiting. They spin slowly, releasing faint radiation, but the dramatic outbursts of earlier times are gone. The galaxy feels like an ancient city at dusk, its bustling avenues quieting as lights dim in distant windows. You leave the central glow and drift back into the intergalactic darkness. Here, the true scale of cosmic expansion becomes clear. Galaxies that once danced in tight clusters now drift apart like glowing islands receding across an expanding sea. Their connections grow weaker, the gravitational bonds stretched past their limits. You feel the vastness open around you in every direction, a calm emptiness that is not threatening but deeply contemplative. Space grows quieter not because something is lost, but because everything has reached a state of gentle acceptance. You begin to understand that this twilight is not a single moment but a long era, unfolding over unimaginable stretches of time. No alarm marks the transition. Nothing collapses suddenly. Instead, the universe eases into this new state, letting its structures relax as star formation dwindles and galaxies become pale versions of their younger selves. You imagine the universe as an ancient being settling into rest, exhaling after an existence filled with brilliant activity. The calm is so complete that it feels like a natural part of the story, not a tragic conclusion. The dark space between galaxies feels like a soft cushion now, absorbing light and stretching gently along with the fabric of reality. You sense how every point in space moves away from every other point, but not out of impatience. The expansion simply continues, guided by the subtle push of dark energy, a quiet influence that does not shout or command. Its presence feels like a steady breath, shaping the destiny of the cosmos with a silence that resonates through your own thoughts. You find yourself matching its rhythm, inhaling slowly as the universe expands, exhaling as it releases old light into the void. As you drift, you realize that galaxies will continue to fade, their stars growing dimmer and rarer until their structures become little more than scattered specks of light. Yet this quieting does not feel empty. It feels like stepping into a vast cathedral where whispers matter more than songs. In this twilight, every faint star becomes precious, every scattered glow a reminder of the era when the universe blazed with creativity. The silence enhances the beauty, letting you appreciate the tenderness of light that persists even when creation grows thin. You look back at the galaxy behind you, watching it shrink slightly as expansion pulls you farther away. Its pale spiral remains visible for a moment longer, hovering like a dream you are slowly waking from. You know it will continue to drift, grow faint, and eventually fade into the stretched tapestry of the cosmos. Yet in this fading you feel no despair. Instead, you feel a quiet reverence for the endurance of light, for the gentle persistence of galactic memory. A soft question rises within you, carried by the expanding dark. What happens to the last stars when their galaxies fade away? And with that quiet curiosity guiding you, you drift forward into the next chapter of the universe's story, ready to follow the remnants of suns toward their long, cooling future. You drift gently across the universe, leaving the pale, stretched galaxies behind, and find yourself approaching a region of stars that have grown old in the quiet of time. These are no longer bright or dramatic. Their flames have settled into a calm, enduring glow, softening as they exhaust the last remnants of their fuel. You feel as though you are entering a sanctuary of memory, where the lights of the past burn in the hush of cosmic patience. There is no urgency here, no energy to spare for spectacle, only the slow rhythm of existence winding down. You focus on one such star, a sun that has lived for tens of billions of years. Its surface once radiated heat and light across planets, nurturing them with steady energy. Now it has grown small and dim, redder than the eye of a younger sun, its outer layers thinning. You sense the quiet dignity of its state, a gentle surrender to the inevitable. This star is becoming a white dwarf, a dense, compact sphere that holds all its mass in a form far hotter than it appears, yet steadily cooling over unfathomable spans of time. Its glow reaches you like a whisper, a reminder of the persistence of light even when life has slowed. You imagine touching its surface, feeling the invisible heat, knowing that this energy will eventually fade entirely. The star's core is no longer alive with fusion. Its hydrogen burned long ago, helium followed, and now heavier elements have been fused until only a shell of energy remains. Yet even in this quiet, it continues to emit photons, light trembling across the void as a last expression of its long life. You sense in this emission a story told not in words but in warmth, a narrative of endurance that spans billions of years. As you drift among these ancient suns, you notice that each is unique in the way it fades. Some are smaller, like red dwarfs, which are still quietly burning, capable of lasting trillions of years before dimming. Others are the remnants of larger stars, now compressed into white dwarfs, shining faintly before they too fade into blackness. You recognize that the universe holds an extraordinary patience, allowing stars to live out their lifetimes fully, without hurry, without interruption. You breathe in the calm, letting it settle into your chest, as if the universe itself is tucking you into this celestial quiet. You begin to follow one of the larger white dwarfs as it cools, its light weakening slowly across the surrounding emptiness. Over time, it will fade into a black dwarf, a dark sphere where energy has almost entirely dissipated. It is not a violent end, but a gentle dimming, a slow slipping into silence. You consider that even in this final stage, the star remains a presence in the cosmos, a reminder that everything that lives eventually rests. There is something comforting in this predictability, in the knowledge that endings do not need to be sudden to be complete. You sense the passing of time differently here. When looking at young, blazing stars, time feels alive and urgent. But in the vicinity of these ancient remnants, it slows. You feel it as a soft stretching, like a long exhale. The star's slow cooling acts as a rhythm for your thoughts, drawing them into a meditative cadence. You begin to understand that the universe, in its own quiet way, is teaching you the art of patience. Each black dwarf that will eventually form is a lesson in gradual release, a cosmic lullaby for the mind. You notice the space between these dying stars, and it too seems altered. The density of material has decreased. The interstellar medium has thinned as the cycles of creation and destruction wind down. Where once there were clouds of gas capable of forming new stars, there is now a pale emptiness, almost translucent. You drift through this quiet void and feel that even absence can have weight. The emptiness is not frightening. It is the backdrop for reflection, a soft canvas upon which the faint lights of black dwarfs will one day be the only accents. A thought arises in you, gentle and curious. What dreams might linger in a star that no longer shines? Perhaps the question seems absurd, for these are not conscious entities, but you cannot help but imagine their history, the energy and motion that once defined them, the planets they may have warmed, the light that shaped young worlds. The universe is patient, and in this patience you find space to imagine. Each black dwarf carries a memory, subtle and intangible, preserved in the photons and gravitational footprints it leaves behind. Even as it cools, it holds onto the echo of what it once was. You move closer to observe the surface of a white dwarf, noting its crystalline structure, a hardened shell of carbon and oxygen. It is a strange beauty, a stark contrast to the fire it once contained. You marvel at how something that once roared with nuclear energy can now exist as a silent, solid sphere, glowing faintly in the dark. You sense a lesson in resilience, a reminder that the universe transforms rather than destroys, that endings often carry new forms of grace. The stars are not gone. They have simply changed shape, adapting to the slow rhythm of cosmic time. The faint radiation of these remnants touches other matter in subtle ways. Photons escape and drift across space, occasionally interacting with interstellar gas, nudging it gently. You feel the slow, persistent influence of existence even when energy is weak. This gentle interaction seems to whisper that life, even in its quietest forms, leaves traces that can ripple through the cosmos for eons. You let your mind settle into that rhythm, feeling the tender passage of time as a form of reassurance rather than loss. You consider the broader perspective. Eventually, trillions of years from now, the universe will be filled with black dwarfs. Stars as we know them will be gone. Galaxies will grow faint. Matter will disperse, and energy will become scarce. Yet, in this projected darkness, the universe maintains an elegance of order and patience. You realize that even endings are part of an immense, intricate design, unfolding over scales of time that defy ordinary understanding. You feel your thoughts expand, attempting to match the breadth of this quiet patience. You linger on the edge of one black dwarf sphere, imagining the slow decay yet to come. Its light will fade almost imperceptibly, leaving a universe that has entered a deep, contemplative stage. The idea is neither lonely nor sorrowful. It is meditative, like watching a long day close with the soft dimming of the sky. You feel wrapped in the calm of this cosmic tempo, the gentle movement of matter and energy teaching you how to let go, how to rest in the passage of time. You are part of this story, quietly observing and absorbing its lessons. As you drift, you notice that the faint glow of these ancient stars forms a subtle pattern, like tiny sparks in a vast ocean of dark. It is a delicate geometry, a tapestry woven over billions of years, and you feel privileged to witness it. Each point of light tells a story of endurance, of matter and energy performing their roles with patience and grace. You understand that the universe has a rhythm that is not measured in seconds or years but in epochs, in the soft fading of suns and the slow shifting of space itself. You pause and let your gaze stretch across this field of dying stars. There is a comforting symmetry in their cooling. You feel the universe as a living entity, tucking itself in for a long rest. The warmth that remains, however faint, offers reassurance. Even as the fire dies, the memory of heat lingers, comforting and gentle. You sense that endings are not abrupt but unfold with elegance, giving you time to reflect, to breathe, and to understand the grace of slow transformations. Finally, as you begin to drift away, you leave behind the dim light of these ancient suns. You carry with you a sense of calm patience, a meditative awareness of the universe's enduring rhythm. Ahead, lies another layer of cosmic mystery, the slow decay of matter itself. How do atoms, once so certain and structured, unravel as time stretches forward into the far future? You drift toward that question, ready to follow the next stage of the universe's quiet, reflective journey. You drift forward from the quiet of black dwarfs, moving into a region where matter itself seems to grow fragile. The universe feels thinner here, more delicate, as if the very fabric of existence is stretching slowly, leaving atoms and particles to wander in a vast emptiness. You sense the inevitability of decay, not as something violent, but as a patient, natural process unfolding over spans of time so vast that your mind can barely hold them. Each particle carries a memory of its formation, yet now even those memories begin to loosen, like a fabric unraveling thread by thread. You notice individual atoms drifting apart. Protons, neutrons, electrons, once the foundation of worlds, seem to hesitate, their bonds weakening across eons. The elements that once built planets, oceans, and mountains now feel ephemeral. You imagine the iron that once formed the core of a planet, or the carbon that gave life its structures, slowly dissolving into subatomic whispers. It is not sudden or dramatic. It is a slow, graceful fading, a reminder that permanence is an illusion, and that all matter, even the most stable, has a natural lifespan. As you drift through this thinning space, you feel the enormity of the slow disintegration. Stars have burned out, galaxies have dimmed, and now even matter begins to surrender its solidity. You sense the universe as a patient teacher, demonstrating impermanence with quiet authority. Each particle, freed from its previous structure, floats freely in the dark, moving with an ease that contrasts with the tense bonds of earlier eras. The universe grows quieter with every step, not empty but filled with the soft hum of ongoing transformation. You pass by a region where remnants of planetary systems once existed. Tiny fragments of rock, long since stripped from their original forms, drift in scattered silence. You sense how atoms themselves are gradually decaying, and you imagine the trillions of years it will take for the universe to reach a state where even the smallest particles are affected. Protons may slowly decay, electrons may wander, and neutrons will find themselves alone. The solidity that once defined matter will melt into a more diffuse, subtle form. You feel a strange reverence for this quiet patience, as if the universe is reminding you that time is vast, and decay is not loss but transformation. You notice the subtle shifts in energy as matter unravels. Photons scatter, atomic bonds loosen, and the familiar textures of solidity dissolve. The universe becomes almost translucent, like a thin fog stretched across an infinite field. You feel your mind adjusting to this softness, learning to perceive the world not in terms of weight or density, but in the rhythms of vanishing structures. There is an almost meditative quality in watching this slow decay. Each moment stretches, elongates, and folds gently into the next, teaching you the subtle art of letting go. You observe clusters of atoms, remnants of once complete molecules, now drifting apart. You imagine the calcium that once built skeletons, the silicon that once formed rocky mountains, the oxygen that once filled air, all dissolving into simpler forms. And yet, you sense that even in this dissolution, matter is not gone entirely. It transforms, disperses, and reconfigures itself in ways too subtle for immediate perception. The universe is not emptying itself. It is simply relaxing into a quieter, more patient state. You feel your own thoughts slow, matching the rhythm of this gentle, cosmic unraveling. You begin to sense the faint warmth left behind by decaying matter, almost imperceptible, a memory of energy once tightly bound. It is not enough to light a star or sustain a world, but it is there, lingering like a whisper of something that was. You feel connected to that persistence, as if even in decay, the universe maintains a subtle grace. Every atom carries its own history, and even as its structure loosens, it continues to interact with the surrounding emptiness, nudging the space around it ever so slightly, leaving traces that are almost too fine to notice. The emptiness grows thicker as you move farther. Entire regions are now dominated by single particles, scattered across vast distances. You feel the enormity of isolation, but it is not lonely. The universe is not sad. It is calm. You sense a strange beauty in the very fragility of matter, a silent elegance in the unweaving of atomic bonds. You realize that the strength of matter was never eternal, and that the universe's true endurance lies not in the persistence of solidity, but in the patience of transformation itself. You imagine a planet long vanished. Its elements now float separately, like beads on invisible threads, never to come together again in the same pattern. You feel the quiet sorrow of impermanence, but it is tempered by the knowledge that the process is natural and inevitable. Nothing fights against it. No collapse occurs abruptly. Everything simply releases itself into the cosmic stream, contributing to the soft, persistent rhythm of existence. You inhale slowly, feeling the universe exhale with you, and allow your awareness to stretch with the dissolution unfolding around you. You notice that even in this near emptiness, interactions continue, subtle and patient. Particles collide occasionally, photons flicker, and gravity continues to shape the drift of matter. The universe is still active in the most delicate ways, even as most recognizable structure has faded. You sense that endings are never truly abrupt. There is always an echo, a trace, a small act of persistence that carries forward into time. It feels like listening to the very last notes of a symphony stretched across eons, delicate and nearly imperceptible, but present. You drift past the remnants of what were once dense star clusters. Their constituent stars are gone, leaving only scattered atoms, drifting without the cohesion that once bound them. You imagine the slow weakening of atomic bonds, the fading of nuclei into subatomic components, and the gradual unraveling of the elements themselves. There is no rush, no violent end, only the patient unfolding of time and physics. The universe feels almost meditative here, a place where you can witness the impermanence of matter without fear, and even sense a subtle beauty in its dissolving patterns. You allow yourself to consider the philosophical weight of this slow decay. If matter, which once seemed so solid, can unravel over trillions upon trillions of years, what does that mean for everything that seems permanent? Yet the reflection is not disturbing. You feel a quiet comfort, a soft wisdom imparted by the patient rhythm of cosmic dissolution. The universe teaches you that even in the absence of structure, there is elegance. There is order in the way everything relaxes into the next stage. It is a lesson in accepting change, in letting go without tension. Finally, you float onward, leaving behind the last cohesive remnants of atomic clusters. Ahead, the universe grows even quieter, more diffuse. As you approach regions where the final flickers of structure will disappear, and black holes and remaining energy will dominate the landscape, you feel a gentle anticipation for the next stage of this long journey. The slow unraveling of matter has shown you that endings can be serene, meditative, and graceful. And with that thought, you drift toward the next chapter, where the dark giants of the universe, the black holes, await, holding the last whispers of warmth in their silent, immense presence. You drift slowly toward the hearts of galaxies long past their prime, places where ancient stars and scattered matter have surrendered to the inevitability of cosmic aging. In these quiet centers, black holes, immense, dense, and nearly eternal, lie in patient stillness. You sense their presence before you see them, a deep pull that affects the space around you, curving it subtly, like a gentle depression in a calm lake. There is no fear in this feeling, only awe, as if you are approaching a creature of infinite patience, quietly holding the remnants of everything that came before. The first black hole you approach is massive, a supermassive one that once ruled its galaxy with an invisible hand. Its gravity stretches space itself, bending light and time around it. You notice how photons from distant stars curve gracefully around the dark sphere, tracing invisible arcs as they continue their journey. The black hole does not move or act with urgency. It simply exists, a focal point of immense influence, a silent witness to billions of years of cosmic history. You sense that here, at the heart of what remains, the universe tucks in its deepest warmth. You float closer, aware of the horizon, the event horizon, the invisible boundary from which nothing escapes. You do not fear it. You are not falling, only observing. You notice that objects approaching this boundary are stretched subtly, elongated as space itself curves in the gravity well. Light bends and twists, colors shift imperceptibly, and the environment feels almost liquid in its distortion. You realize that the black hole does not swallow in haste. Its consumption is patient, deliberate, as if it knows that time is no longer urgent and that the universe has long since stopped hurrying. You watch a stray cloud of gas, a remnant from a long-extinct star, drifting slowly into the black hole. It is pulled gently, gradually, as if lured by a soft voice rather than a violent force. The matter spirals inward, elongated by the stretching of space, and disappears beyond the event horizon. You notice that even in this act of absorption, there is a calm elegance. Nothing screams, nothing explodes. The universe here is meditative, observing the last structures folding into one another, reminding you that endings can be graceful, even in the presence of such immense forces. You begin to sense the immense age of this place. Most of the stars that once shone brightly have long since died. Galaxies have dimmed, leaving only scattered, faint glimmers and these immense, patient giants. The black holes, some surrounded by faint disks of matter, act as custodians of what remains. Their gravity hums, a low, unspoken vibration that you feel in your chest more than hear. It is a soundless song of endurance, a gentle reminder that even in darkness, there is presence, energy, and purpose. You focus on the radiation escaping the black hole's surroundings. This is not violent light, but thin, delicate streams of energy, hawking radiation slowly leaking from the edge. You sense its faint warmth, almost imperceptible, touching you softly across the void. The black hole is not entirely dark. It whispers with this delicate glow, a farewell gesture from an entity that otherwise holds everything in stillness. You realize that even the most absolute darkness carries a subtle expression, a soft reminder of existence and persistence across time. You move to observe smaller black holes, those left behind by individual stars that burned long ago. Their pull is less imposing, yet no less profound. You see how they capture wandering particles and the occasional photon, swallowing them gently, without haste. Their surrounding space is calm, a quiet neighborhood where the rules of gravity continue their work, but slowly, without urgency. You sense that in these moments, the universe is teaching you the patient rhythm of absorption, the way energy and matter can be collected and preserved even as everything else fades away. Time seems to behave differently near these black holes. Seconds, minutes, years, these units of measurement lose meaning as you approach. Space stretches and bends, and the perception of duration becomes fluid. You feel a meditative rhythm here, a gentle ebb and flow dictated by gravity itself rather than the ticking of a clock. The universe is not rushing, and you match your own internal pace to it, breathing slowly as you float, letting the vast stillness shape your awareness. It is a quiet lesson in patience and reflection. You notice the faint remnants of stars that have wandered too close in the past, stripped of gas and matter, now forming disks of energy spiraling ever inward. Their material is drawn gradually, following the curvature of spacetime with exquisite precision. You imagine the journey of each particle, circling, stretching, bending, until finally crossing the event horizon and becoming part of something larger and more enduring. There is no drama, only the elegant inevitability of motion and transformation, a process so slow and deliberate that you can contemplate it in peace. The largest black hole seems to breathe slowly, not in the literal sense, but in the way it interacts with its surroundings. Matter approaches, stretches, and disappears. Radiation leaks outward, almost like a sigh. You feel the presence of its immense mass as a quiet hum in your chest. Here is warmth without fire, presence without motion, a profound silence that carries history and memory. You sense that black holes are not just endpoints, but repositories of time, preserving fragments of what once was, and in their slow evaporation, leaving behind the softest echoes of energy. You move further into the center, exploring the interplay between black holes and the surrounding cosmos. Even as stars and planets vanish, these dark giants persist, guardians of the universe's last remaining structures. You feel a subtle contrast between activity and stillness, the absorption of matter, the faint radiation emitted, and the gentle curvature of space itself. Everything unfolds with patience, without rush. The universe is teaching you the art of slow transformation, of endings that are neither violent nor abrupt, but delicate, meditative, and profound. You notice that the surrounding void is gradually cooling, the temperature dropping as stars fade and matter thins. The black holes remain as islands of intensity, silent in their persistence. They are the last places of warmth in a universe increasingly defined by emptiness. You imagine approaching one closely, feeling the subtle tug of gravity, the faint radiation, the quiet echo of energy long past. You sense that here, in this extreme stillness, there is an opportunity to witness the universe's final gestures before everything moves toward a deeper calm. You reflect on the impermanence of structure and the persistence of energy. Stars, once vibrant and dominant, have long since surrendered to time. Matter itself is unraveling, but black holes endure, preserving and absorbing, their presence a testament to the patient rhythm of cosmic processes. Even they, however, are not eternal. Hawking radiation will eventually evaporate them, and the warm remnants of galaxies will merge into the cold, dark sea of space. You sense the long horizon of this inevitability, feeling both awe and tranquility as the universe continues its quiet journey. You drift back slightly, observing multiple black holes in the vast emptiness. Each one is unique in size, mass, and the faint energy it emits. You sense how they interact subtly, their gravity shaping the paths of wandering particles, guiding them gently into their depths. The universe here feels deeply ordered, yet infinitely calm. You notice that even in what seems like absolute darkness, there is structure, there is rhythm, and there is an almost gentle insistence that time and matter will continue their quiet interplay until the very edges of existence. Finally, you pull away from the largest supermassive black hole, leaving its low hum behind. You feel the universe stretching out ahead, quieting further as galaxies continue to fade and matter disperses. Even the giants, powerful and patient, will one day vanish into the final slow radiation of Hawking processes. You carry with you the memory of their still presence, the calm dignity of immense gravitational forces, and the soft warmth that lingers even in what seems like absolute darkness. Ahead, you sense the universe preparing to reveal the thinnest glow of all, the delicate light escaping from dying black holes themselves, almost imperceptible, yet undeniably present. You drift gently past the last supermassive black holes, leaving behind their immense pull and the soft hum of gravity. In the vast darkness that surrounds them, you sense a subtle presence, a faint, almost imperceptible glow. This is Hawking radiation, the final, delicate light leaking from objects that once seemed eternal. It is a whisper of energy, thin and fragile, yet undeniably real, carrying with it the memory of immense gravitational force now slowly releasing itself. You realize that even the most absolute darkness contains traces of expression, like the faint afterglow of a long-forgotten song. As you approach this glow, it feels like standing at the edge of time itself. Each particle of light drifts outward, barely noticeable, a quiet testament to the inevitability of change. You sense the patient rhythm of emission, a process so slow that it stretches across unimaginable epochs. This radiation is the universe's soft farewell, a delicate sigh from objects that once dominated galaxies, now surrendering their energy in the most subtle way. You feel a gentle awe, as if observing the final gestures of a symphony, its last notes lingering longer than the ear can perceive. You notice the difference between this faint glow and the fiery brilliance of stars you once witnessed. Where stars burned with urgency and heat, Hawking light emerges slowly, delicately, almost reluctantly. It is so thin that a single particle might travel vast distances before interacting with anything else. You sense the enormity of time required for these black holes to fully evaporate, trillions upon trillions of years. Yet, there is no impatience in the process. The universe, in this era, moves at a rhythm of infinite patience, and you find yourself slowing to match it. The radiation itself feels ephemeral, like whispers drifting across a cosmic hall. Each particle carries a fraction of the black hole's mass, leaving behind slightly less gravity with each emission. You realize that even something as seemingly permanent as a black hole can fade, given enough time. There is a profound serenity in this knowledge, a reminder that permanence is an illusion and that all structures, no matter how immense, participate in the quiet unfolding of cosmic transformation. You feel your mind expand, trying to grasp the delicate interplay of mass, energy, and time. You follow one tiny particle of Hawking radiation, watching it drift across the emptiness. It moves without urgency, a soft echo of a force that once seemed overwhelming. You imagine the black hole it departed from, now slightly lighter, slightly diminished, yet still profound in its presence. There is a subtle beauty in witnessing this slow release, a meditative calm in observing the universe's patient steps toward equilibrium. You begin to sense the final chapters of energy, matter, and space, each playing its part in a story that has been unfolding for countless eons. You drift past multiple black holes, each emitting its own thread of Hawking light. The combined glow is faint, but persistent, a constellation of tiny reminders that even in near-total darkness, the universe has not entirely gone silent. You notice how these emissions will continue long after every star has died, long after matter has unraveled, painting the void with an almost imperceptible luminescence. The soft persistence of energy here feels comforting, like the memory of warmth on a cold night, a subtle presence that reassures you even as everything else fades. You feel the expansion of space amplifying the emptiness around you. Distances stretch further, and light, even this faint Hawking glow, travels longer spans without reaching any matter to interact with. You sense the universe thinning, not in haste but in gentle, deliberate pacing. Each particle is a quiet testament to the patience inherent in the cosmos. There is no rush, no sudden collapse. Only the slow, serene progression of time guiding energy outward, spreading it thinly across the eternal dark. You notice that even as these particles travel, they leave behind faint ripples in space-time, subtle distortions that echo the existence of the black holes themselves. It is as if every emission whispers, "I was here. I existed. I contributed to the universe." You feel a deep resonance in these tiny gestures, sensing that the cosmos values persistence, subtlety, and grace as much as it once celebrated brilliance, heat, and motion. The faint light becomes a meditation, a reminder that endings can be both soft and meaningful. As you drift further, you begin to consider the scale of this quiet transformation. The age of Hawking light is a time when energy itself is thinning, when every structure, from galaxies to stars to atoms, has either faded or decayed. Yet this delicate glow reminds you that the universe continues to express itself, even in ways too subtle for immediate perception. It is a form of communication, a final, intimate connection between existence and the observer. You sense that even as matter and light vanish, the universe leaves traces of its history in the softest, most delicate forms. You move closer to one evaporating black hole, focusing on the diminishing mass and the increasingly prominent Hawking radiation. You feel the balance between emptiness and subtle presence, and you realize that the universe's final stages are not violent but profoundly gentle. The fading light touches the surrounding space, warming it imperceptibly, a soft sigh in the infinite dark. You imagine billions of these slow gestures happening simultaneously across the cosmos, each a quiet testament to time, persistence, and inevitable transformation. The sensation of time around these dying giants is unusual. Seconds, years, and millennia lose their meaning. You sense events stretching, slowing, and blending into one another, as if the universe itself is sighing in relief, letting processes unfold without rush. Each particle of Hawking radiation moves on a path determined not only by physics but by the slow, meditative cadence of a cosmos entering its final chapters. You float in harmony with this rhythm, feeling the patience of existence reflected in your own breath and heartbeat. You notice that eventually, every black hole will vanish, leaving behind only the faintest trace of its presence in these scattered particles. Yet even this absence will not feel empty. You sense a continuity, a quiet thread connecting the long history of stars, galaxies, matter, and energy to the soft, imperceptible radiation now traversing the dark. The universe has a rhythm, and this final light is part of its lullaby, a whisper reminding you that endings can be serene, delicate, and beautiful. Finally, you allow your attention to drift to the broader emptiness around you. The universe, stretched thin and dim, feels infinitely calm. The age of Hawking light is a period of subtle beauty, where existence continues in forms so faint that only careful observation can perceive them. You realize that this era, though quiet and nearly imperceptible, carries profound meaning. Each particle, each photon, each ripple of energy is part of a tapestry that tells the story of creation, transformation, and patient release. As you pull away from the evaporating black holes, you carry with you the gentle impression of their quiet power. The universe has moved into an era of delicate expression, where light is faint, matter is sparse, and time stretches into a soft, patient calm. Ahead, you sense an even deeper stillness, an era where the very concept of time may begin to lose its meaning, where the cosmos becomes an ocean of gentle, almost imperceptible events. You drift forward, ready to witness how time itself will stretch, loosen, and float into the quiet beyond. You float into the vast quiet left behind by evaporating black holes, drifting into a cosmos stretched thin and delicate. Here, the remnants of stars, matter, and radiation have become scattered whispers, faint traces across the infinite dark. You sense a subtle shift in perception as you travel. Events themselves begin to slow, almost imperceptibly, as if the universe has decided to pause and exhale. Seconds lose their urgency. Minutes fold softly into hours, hours into millennia, and millennia into spans so long they feel like a single, uninterrupted breath. Time is no longer measured in ticks or beats, but in the gentle rhythm of change or what little remains of it. At first, it is almost imperceptible. You notice a faint stretching of cause and effect. A photon, traveling across empty space, moves with the same speed, but the events it might witness, collisions, interactions, transformations, are fewer and farther between. Atoms drift isolated and alone. Even when matter meets matter, the consequences are subtle and patient, unfolding across durations that feel meditative, almost eternal. You sense that time here is no longer a river rushing forward, but a slow, broad sea with barely a ripple, carrying the residue of the universe along in its quiet current. You feel your own perception adjusting, slowly syncing with the languid pulse of this era. Your thoughts stretch along with the moments, bending and elongating in harmony with the cosmos. You realize that the universe, in this stage, no longer imposes urgency. It simply exists. The frantic bursts of creation, the fiery lives of stars, the energetic dances of galaxies, all are gone. What remains is patient, deliberate, almost contemplative. You breathe in this rhythm, letting the gentle stretching of time soften your mind, and in doing so, you feel a profound intimacy with the quiet workings of existence. You begin to notice subtle changes in your awareness of duration. A particle drifts a distance that once felt instantaneous, and yet the journey seems to stretch for countless eons. Light itself appears to pause, its path uninterrupted but its meaning diminished in a universe that has grown so quiet. You sense that time is no longer an instrument measuring change, but a vast canvas upon which the softest events leave their impressions. The emptiness around you feels deliberate, meditative, a stage for reflection on the subtle poetry of a universe in its twilight. You encounter atoms moving slowly across the void, remnants of matter that once formed stars and planets. They drift alone or in small clusters, interacting occasionally, but with no urgency, no expectation. Their paths are patient and graceful, a ballet unfolding over durations so long they challenge comprehension. You sense that time, in its loosened state, allows everything to occur without hurry. The universe has become a slow, meditative process, and even your mind adjusts to the pacing, observing not events, but the soft unfolding of existence itself. You drift past the faint residual glow of Hawking radiation, now stretched thin across space. The light barely registers, and yet it continues its journey, patient and unhurried. You realize that energy, like time, has softened its movement, whispering across emptiness without rushing toward any destination. You feel a delicate resonance between yourself and these quiet phenomena, a sense that both observer and observed are participating in the same gentle meditation. The universe is no longer measured in explosive events, but in persistent, subtle flows of energy and presence. You notice the stretching of space as well as time. Distances grow vast, not in the abrupt way of cosmic expansion in earlier epochs, but as if the universe itself has stretched the very fabric of reality in tandem with the slowing of events. Matter and radiation become increasingly sparse, separated by stretches of nothingness so wide that encounters are exceedingly rare. You feel as if you are floating in an ocean whose waves have disappeared, a calm expanse where the surface is invisible, and motion is defined only by the patient drift of distant particles. You begin to reflect on the philosophical texture of this era. If time itself has loosened its grasp on events, how do beginnings and endings feel? You sense that distinctions fade. The concept of before and after softens into a continuum. There is no urgency to reach a conclusion, no pressing need for events to unfold. Everything that remains moves gently, in slow correspondence with the universe's meditative rhythm. You feel a quiet comfort in this, a reassurance that existence can be gentle and intentional, even in the absence of vibrant activity. You encounter clusters of subatomic particles that, in earlier eras would have formed atoms, molecules, and eventually worlds. Now they drift isolated, their interactions rare and subtle. When they meet, reactions occur with a languid grace, almost imperceptible to the mind accustomed to shorter spans. You notice the beauty in these interactions, a delicate choreography that continues without urgency. The universe, in its twilight, seems to have shifted its priorities. It values persistence, balance, and patience over speed or drama. You feel yourself harmonizing with this meditative tempo, letting your awareness stretch along with the slow drift of reality. You sense the thinning of causal chains. Where once events followed each other with precision and rapidity, now they are distant echoes, stretched and softened across time. Particle interacts, then drifts for eons before another interaction occurs. A photon passes unobserved for unfathomable periods. The universe seems contemplative, no longer demanding attention or action, only offering the gentle unfolding of processes that take place across stretches of time that defy ordinary comprehension. You breathe in the enormity of this calm, letting it slow your heartbeat and soften your thoughts. You realize that the slowing of time also affects your perception of space. Distances become less a measure of travel and more a meditation on potential. A journey from one point to another is not measured in seconds or minutes but in gentle movement, in the patient unfolding of events that might eventually occur. You feel a strange harmony in this, a union of perception and reality, as if the universe and your consciousness have entered the same serene state. There is no need to rush, no need to measure, only the acceptance of a patient, quiet existence. You observe the faint traces of matter and radiation drifting aimlessly across the vast emptiness. They carry the weight of history, the echoes of energy, and the subtle imprints of forces that shaped earlier eras. Yet even these traces are slowed, stretched, and diffused. You sense that time, having lost its strict definition, allows the universe to reflect on its own existence, almost as if contemplating its journey from creation to the near-absolute quiet that surrounds you. You float along, a silent witness, absorbing the meditative lesson of patience, persistence, and serenity. You begin to sense a deeper question arising. How does time behave when nothing remains to mark it? In the absence of clocks, events, or observers, does time continue to flow, or does it dissolve into a vast potential, a dimension of quiet expectation? You notice that even as moments stretch and events fade, there remains a rhythm, a continuity, a subtle flow that carries the universe along. You realize that the soft meditation of existence may itself be a form of time, gentle and almost imperceptible, yet undeniably present. It is a lesson in the quiet persistence of being. Finally, you drift toward regions where even the faintest traces of matter are rare, and the slow rhythm of the universe dominates. Here, in this soft, patient expanse, time feels like an ocean without waves, carrying everything gently along. You sense that the universe itself has learned the art of reflection, slowing to observe, to exist, and to continue without urgency. The meditative quality of this era resonates in you, drawing your awareness into its calm and letting you float in harmony with the universe's patient unfolding. Ahead lies the next stage, where even black dwarfs and iron stars dissolve into quiet dust, revealing the gentlest lessons of cosmic decay. You drift forward, ready to witness their quiet dissolution. You drift back toward the remnants of stars, now long extinguished, leaving only black dwarfs and iron-rich cores behind. These once brilliant suns have cooled to a temperature so low it is almost impossible to detect, their light entirely surrendered to the dark. You sense the stillness around them, a calm that feels almost sacred. There is no urgency, no drama. These ancient stellar husks float quietly in the void, patient witnesses to the slow passage of eons, their energy dissipated, their matter gradually giving way to the subtle pull of time and decay. You approach a black dwarf, the final form of a star that once burned with intense heat and radiance. Its surface is cold, dark, unyielding to the naked eye, yet there is a story etched into its very atoms. You feel the slow unraveling of these particles, the gradual weakening of bonds that once held them tightly together. Protons begin their rare decay, nuclei lose their stability, and electrons drift in solitude. You realize that the solidity that seemed eternal is only temporary, destined to dissolve across spans of time that stretch beyond imagination. The iron cores of once mighty stars are especially compelling. You observe how their dense lattice of nuclei begins to crumble as subatomic processes unfold. Neutrons decay, and the binding energy that once stabilized the cores loosens. Slowly, the iron itself turns to dust, a delicate snow of particles that drifts through the void. The process is neither chaotic nor violent. Instead, it unfolds like a slow, deliberate sigh, as if the universe itself is breathing gently, letting each particle slip away in its own time. You feel an unexpected intimacy with this process, as if decay is not loss, but a kind of patient storytelling. Around these remnants, space is sparsely populated with lonely particles, drifting almost aimlessly. Protons, neutrons, and electrons, separated from their previous bonds, float along gentle trajectories. They interact occasionally, but only subtly, a faint dance in a vast, quiet hall. You notice that the universe itself has slowed its tempo to match this serene disassembly. Every event, every interaction, is drawn out, stretched across durations so long that they feel like eternity itself. You begin to sense the art of patience embedded in the cosmos, a rhythm that values the slow, the subtle, and the gentle. You follow one drifting particle, tracing its meandering path through near-empty space. It was once part of a star's core, a fragment of a structure that once gave warmth and light to its surroundings. Now it floats alone, free from the constraints that once bound it to a solid lattice. Yet there is no sadness here, only an unhurried unfolding. The particle moves with quiet dignity, a participant in a cosmic ballet that has slowed to the most meditative of tempos. You feel yourself mirroring this stillness, your thoughts elongating to match the rhythm of the dissolving matter. The snow of particles spreads wider, drifting across regions where black dwarfs once clustered. You sense the faint residual gravity of these ancient cores, too weak to hold matter tightly, but enough to guide their slow migration. Interactions are rare and delicate, collisions gentle, almost poetic. Each encounter is an echo of the universe's earlier vigor, now softened and subdued. You feel that the very act of decay carries a subtle beauty, a lesson in transformation that is quiet, patient, and meditative. You drift past multiple iron stars, observing the slow crumbling of their once dense cores. Each one releases tiny fragments into space, particles that float silently, leaving behind traces of their previous structure. The process is gradual, almost tender in its execution. There is a sense of purpose in the dissolution, a gentle unfolding that suggests that even endings can be graceful. The universe teaches you here that loss does not have to be violent, and that decay itself can embody a kind of subtle, patient love for what once existed. You notice that energy, once concentrated in the hearts of stars, now disperses across the void. It is not a dramatic radiation but a thin, persistent warmth, imperceptible yet present. The gentle dissipation of energy seems to comfort the empty space around it, as if the universe is tucking itself in, drawing a soft blanket across the remains of its once brilliant structures. You feel a profound calm in this scene, a reassurance that even as matter dissolves, there is no abruptness, no harshness, only the patient passage of time guiding all toward quiet equilibrium. You observe that even these slow processes carry information, subtle patterns of interaction that trace the history of each particle. The decaying cores leave behind more than fragments. They leave hints of what was, the density of the original stars, the order of nuclei, the gentle imprint of forces that held them together. You sense that the universe remembers even in its final stages, encoding traces of creation and dissolution alike. The quiet drift of matter becomes a soft meditation, each particle a note in a symphony too slow and delicate to hear but visible to the mind willing to perceive. You drift toward a region where black dwarfs and iron stars once densely populated space. Now it is almost empty, save for the thin snow of liberated particles. You feel the vastness of time here, the immense patience required for even the slowest processes to unfold. You sense that endings are drawn out, meditative, and almost reverent, each particle participating in a final act of gentle release. The universe does not rush, nor does it resist. It simply allows decay to happen, letting the very structure of matter unravel with grace. As you observe the dissolution, you notice that gravity continues its subtle guidance. Particles are nudged by the remaining mass of black dwarfs, by the dispersed cores of iron stars. They drift in quiet arcs, sometimes converging and sometimes separating. There is a pattern in this slow motion, a rhythm that repeats without urgency. You feel it resonating with your own perception of time and space, a soft reminder that even in near emptiness, there is structure and elegance. The universe teaches you here that stillness and activity are not opposites, but intertwined in a patient cosmic dance. You notice the faint warmth left behind in the void. It is not enough to illuminate, not enough to sustain life or matter, but it persists, a trace of the energy that once burned in stars long ago. This warmth feels comforting, like a memory of sunlight on a distant morning. You realize that even in the quiet dissolution of matter, there is persistence, subtle and enduring. You feel gratitude for this gentle reminder, sensing that endings are not emptiness, but transitions, filled with the quiet lessons of patience, transformation, and soft illumination. Finally, you pull back to observe the broader region of dispersed matter. Black dwarfs continue their silent drift, iron stars crumble into near-invisible dust, and particles wander slowly through the vast emptiness. The universe feels meditative, patient, and almost tender in its handling of its own decay. You sense that even dissolution carries meaning, a gentle narrative woven across the ages. And as you drift forward, you feel anticipation for what lies beyond. The era where entropy dominates, where the universe itself approaches perfect uniformity, and the softest lessons of calm and stillness await you. You drift farther into the universe, where the remains of black dwarfs and iron stars have dispersed into delicate streams of particles. Here, time has slowed, space has stretched, and even energy moves with a patient grace. You notice that temperature differences, once vibrant and essential, have all but vanished. The cosmos approaches a quiet equilibrium, a vast, silent expanse in which heat and cold, motion and stillness, all fade into soft uniformity. Entropy, the measure of disorder, no longer feels threatening. Instead, it hums gently like a lullaby, soothing the universe into peaceful balance. As you move, you sense the fading of all gradients. No bright stars, no warm cores, no pockets of density to distinguish one region from another. Space itself becomes almost invisible, an even velvety expanse where the echoes of past structures persist only as faint whispers. You imagine the universe as a vast ocean, its surface smooth, calm, and mirror-like, reflecting nothing but the softest residual traces of energy. Entropy has guided every particle, every photon, toward this gentle uniformity. You feel it wash over you, a quiet insistence that nothing hurries here, that the universe no longer needs contrast to define itself. You notice the particles themselves, protons, neutrons, electrons, photons, drifting in this vast equilibrium. They are so widely separated that interactions are exceedingly rare. Yet you perceive a certain serenity in their isolation. Even without activity, without collisions, without the spark of energy, there is harmony. The universe seems to have achieved a kind of meditative perfection, where disorder has smoothed away rough edges, where each particle occupies its place in a calm, infinite field. You feel a sense of gentle completion, as if the cosmos has been lulled into rest by its own persistent rhythm. You sense how quiet the universe has become. Light, once abundant, has faded into near invisibility. Even the faintest glimmers of Hawking radiation are stretched thin across unimaginable distances. Matter is sparse, and energy has dissipated. Yet within this apparent emptiness, there is subtle coherence. Entropy, the slow equalizer, has not erased existence. It has woven it into a vast, soft tapestry. You feel the elegance of this transformation. All gradients, all distinctions, all hot and cold, bright and dark, have smoothed into a gentle continuum. You sense that stillness, too, is a form of being. You drift past regions where black dwarfs once lingered, where iron stars crumbled, and where the slow decay of protons unfolded over unimaginable eons. These processes are complete now, their outcomes incorporated into the quiet uniformity around you. Even the particles themselves, diffused and distant, feel like part of a carefully balanced composition. You notice how entropy has acted patiently, ensuring that energy spreads evenly, that the universe becomes calm and homogeneous. You float in rhythm with this process, aware of the extraordinary patience required to achieve such harmony. You begin to reflect on the nature of entropy itself. Once, it was considered a force of disorder, a silent adversary that would consume the energy and structure of the cosmos. Yet here, in the vast quiet, it feels gentle, purposeful, almost kind. By smoothing differences and dispersing energy, entropy has guided the universe into its final calm state. It has removed extremes, dissolved contrasts, and left behind a uniform, tranquil space. You realize that endings need not be violent or abrupt. They can be soft, deliberate, and meditative, a reflection of cosmic patience writ large. You drift farther still, sensing the profound emptiness that now dominates. Even gravitational wells, once pronounced around black holes or clusters of matter, are faint and distant. Space is nearly flat, time stretches indefinitely, and the smallest differences in density have been erased. The universe has become a soft, uniform expanse, where motion continues slowly but without contrast, where energy is present but diffuse, and where particles drift quietly, barely interacting. You feel the vast, patient calm of this environment, a gentle reminder that entropy, like time, moves with infinite patience. You notice the subtle presence of residual radiation, thin and rare. Even photons, stretched and scattered across vast distances, persist faintly, like whispers of a song once played. You sense that entropy has not destroyed these traces, only spread them so widely that their influence is minimal. You float among them, feeling the lingering warmth of energy that once fueled stars, galaxies, and black holes. There is no urgency, no flickering or flashing, only the soft persistence of existence, diffused across a calm, uniform cosmos. You sense that this uniformity is a kind of silence, not empty but complete. There are no sharp contrasts, no violent events, no sudden changes. The universe has reached a point where difference and conflict are unnecessary, where motion itself is patient and unhurried. You drift slowly, feeling as if you are moving through a vast, meditative space where every particle, every photon, every remnant of matter and energy has settled into a quiet concordance. It is a stillness that feels alive, deliberate, and profoundly soothing. You begin to contemplate the significance of this silence. If nothing contrasts with anything else, if everything is evenly spread, what remains to define existence? You notice that there is still the soft echo of presence, the faint whispers of particles, the gentle drift of residual radiation, the persistent, diffused energy that permeates all space. You sense that even in uniformity, there is life on a cosmic scale, a patient endurance that is soft, meditative, and eternal. Entropy has transformed the universe not into emptiness, but into a subtle, almost imperceptible harmony. You drift further, sensing the soft curvature of space itself. Even the small residual gravitational effects have flattened, leaving a nearly perfect geometric calm. The universe stretches on infinitely, without hotspots or valleys, without bright clusters or dense voids. You notice how this vast uniformity encourages reflection, an opportunity to observe without distraction, to sense without interruption. You feel connected to this quietness, to the gentle rhythm of dispersed particles and faint energy, aware that even in apparent stillness, processes continue, slow and meditative. You begin to notice the subtle connection between entropy and the passage of time. Time itself feels stretched, loose, and unhurried, echoing the calm uniformity of space. Moments are elongated, events unfold across durations that feel infinite, and you sense that even the progression of time has become part of the meditative calm. The universe has entered a state where every particle, every photon, every remaining trace of energy contributes to a rhythm that is soft, gentle, and patient. You feel the elegance of this balance, a testament to the power of entropy as a guiding force. Finally, you drift into the heart of this endless horizon, where uniformity dominates and all extremes have softened into calm equilibrium. The universe feels complete, yet not final. There is a subtle pulse, a patient hum beneath the quiet, a gentle suggestion that even in perfect stillness, something persists. You sense that endings can be soft, balanced, and meditative, that entropy itself can teach a lesson in patience, serenity, and subtle presence. And as you float forward, you sense the delicate, almost imperceptible flickers that hint at the tiniest quantum fluctuations, where even in this calm, energy whispers softly, hinting at what might yet arise. You drift into a region so empty it feels as though space itself has exhaled and settled. Even the faint remnants of stars, black dwarfs, and evaporating black holes are distant, diluted, almost imperceptible. Here, in this quiet, your attention is drawn not to matter or energy, but to the faintest flickers of existence, the tiniest quantum events, the spontaneous appearances and disappearances of particles that mark the very fabric of reality. You feel as though you are hovering at the edge of perception, witnessing the universe's subtle heartbeat, a delicate rhythm beneath the calm of emptiness. At first, these flickers are nearly invisible, like gentle ripples in a still pond. Particles blink into being for moments too brief to name, then vanish again, leaving only the soft trace of their presence. You sense the extraordinary patience of the cosmos here, for these events are countless yet scattered across incomprehensible distances. Even as individual particles appear and disappear, there is no rush, no urgency. The universe has slowed to a meditative pace, allowing these quantum fluctuations to occur naturally, softly, and without interference. You watch a single particle emerge, a tiny point of energy in the vast darkness. It exists for an almost unfathomable fraction of a second, yet its presence seems deliberate, a gentle punctuation in the quiet narrative of the cosmos. You feel a sense of awe at the fragile persistence of reality, at the way the universe continues to express itself even in moments too brief to measure. Each flicker is a subtle reminder that existence is never truly empty, that even in what seems like nothing, there is always a faint pulse of being. The quantum field hums beneath your perception, a gentle background to the slow unfolding of space and time. You sense the soft interplay of forces, the subtle push and pull that allows particles to emerge and vanish. There is no chaos here, only a quiet rhythm, almost musical, that carries the universe forward in its patient way. You feel your awareness aligning with this rhythm, matching the delicate tempo of creation and dissolution, so that your mind becomes a participant in the soft meditative dance of quantum events. You notice that these flickers are not random in the chaotic sense, but structured in their probabilistic patterns. Though each particle appears and disappears unpredictably, the overall behavior follows a subtle order dictated by the underlying rules of quantum physics. You sense the elegance of this hidden structure, a reminder that even in near emptiness, there is coherence. The universe has woven a tapestry of the tiniest events, each one a thread connecting nothingness to existence, absence to presence, and the finite to the infinite. You drift among these quantum pulses, feeling the delicate persistence of energy itself. Even in regions devoid of matter, the vacuum is alive with possibilities. Every fluctuation is a soft whisper, a reminder that reality is not fixed, that even emptiness contains the seeds of being. You imagine the gentle flickers stretching across vast spans of space, scattered yet connected in an intricate web of subtle presence. You feel that in observing these events, you are witnessing the quiet potential of creation, the almost imperceptible play of existence against a backdrop of infinite calm. You begin to notice patterns in the flickers, soft repetitions that give the quantum field a quiet musicality. Though each particle is fleeting, the ensemble of fluctuations creates a sense of flow, a gentle rhythm that soothes and fascinates simultaneously. You feel the profound patience of this process, the immense durations over which these events unfold, and you understand that the universe has entered a stage of almost infinite calm. Even at the quantum level, the cosmos moves deliberately, meditating through time with grace and subtlety. You notice the faint traces left by vanished particles, the virtual interactions that ripple gently through space. These traces are delicate, ephemeral, but they carry information, subtle hints of the energy and forces that governed the fleeting particles. You sense that even disappearance leaves a mark, that the universe remembers in the softest ways. There is comfort in this realization, a reassurance that nothing is ever truly lost, that even the briefest spark leaves an echo, a whisper, a memory in the silent expanse. You watch groups of particles flicker in coordination, their interactions almost imperceptible, yet hinting at an underlying unity. It is as if the quantum world, though composed of tiny, fleeting events, has a rhythm that resonates across the void. You sense that the universe, in this quietest of epochs, has found a subtle way to persist, to maintain its existence not through grand structures, but through countless delicate, ephemeral acts of being. Each flicker is a note, each particle a breath, and the ensemble forms a lullaby for the sleeping cosmos. You reflect on the meaning of these faint pulses. They are neither strong nor lasting, yet they endure across time and space, scattered but persistent. You feel a gentle hope in this quiet persistence, a sense that even when the universe has lost its stars, its black holes, and its matter, there remains the soft presence of possibility. Existence, even in the tiniest, most fleeting forms, continues. You sense the patience, elegance, and almost meditative serenity in this reality, and you allow your consciousness to drift in harmony with it. Finally, you notice that the flickers hint at something larger. Though individual particles vanish, the field of potential remains, stretching across infinite space and silent time. The universe, even in its quietest era, is not empty. It hums gently with the tiniest vibrations of energy, subtle reminders that presence and absence are intertwined, that even the faintest possibility matters. You drift forward, feeling the delicate hope carried by these quantum pulses, aware that ahead lies a chapter of absolute darkness, where even this whispering light begins to fade into a velvety calm. You drift into the deepest reaches of space, where even the faint flickers of quantum light have grown impossibly thin. Black dwarfs and iron stars have long since dissolved, particles are scattered, and the last traces of energy have been stretched across incomprehensible distances. The universe itself seems to pause, stretching into a perfect, silent black. It is a darkness so deep and soft that it feels like velvet draped over infinity, a quiet blanket wrapping everything in calm. Here, there is no light to illuminate paths, no stars to guide perception, only a vast emptiness that feels both complete and intimate. At first, you are aware of the subtle textures in the void. Even darkness is not entirely uniform. There is the faintest whisper of gravitational influence, the soft pull of distant mass that has been diluted to near imperceptibility. You feel the universe's slow, patient persistence, as if it holds itself together with a gentle, deliberate care. There is no urgency, no rush, no expectation. You drift in harmony with this calm, your senses attuning to the almost sacred quiet that envelopes all. You notice that time, like space, has lost its rigidity. Moments stretch indefinitely, events occur with immense slowness, and even the concept of before and after fades into a continuous, unbroken present. You feel as though you are floating outside of chronology, existing in a state where the universe has ceased its usual rhythms, leaving only a serene, meditative flow. The passage of time has become a soft, patient backdrop, a gentle rhythm upon which the final echoes of the cosmos drift. The darkness itself seems alive in its subtlety. It is not merely the absence of light, but a presence in its own right, a soft envelope that holds everything in quietude. You sense it wrapping around your consciousness, comforting rather than confining, patient rather than imposing. There is no fear here, no tension, only the profound calm of a universe that has relaxed into its final stages, free from contrasts, free from extremes, and yet full of quiet potential. Even the concept of motion is altered in this age. Particles drift, but slowly, lazily, their interactions so rare that they feel almost symbolic rather than literal. The last remnants of energy stretch across unimaginable distances, moving gently, barely affecting the void they traverse. You realize that the universe has become a space of contemplation rather than action, a realm where persistence matters more than activity, where the soft endurance of being replaces the energetic drama of creation. You feel your mind softening to match this rhythm, floating without effort, absorbing the meditative lesson of absolute calm. You sense the almost sacred silence settling everywhere. There are no explosions, no collisions, no sudden flashes. Even the faintest quantum flickers have thinned into near invisibility. Space feels thick with calm, yet warm, a comforting embrace rather than a vacuum. You sense the residual traces of energy as subtle pulses beneath the darkness, a quiet heartbeat that continues even in what appears to be absolute stillness. It is a persistence so delicate that it can barely be perceived, yet it assures you that existence, in some form, endures. As you drift, you begin to perceive the delicate boundaries of the void. Distances are immense, yet the darkness feels continuous, seamless, infinite. There are no edges, no endpoints, only an unbroken expanse that stretches in every direction. You feel a profound humility in this realization, a sense that the universe's final stage is not about achievement or accumulation, but about quiet, patient presence. Every particle, every photon, every residual bit of energy participates in the gentle orchestration of this absolute calm. You notice the last faint traces of radiation, stretched thin, moving slowly, almost imperceptibly. These remnants are not enough to illuminate, not enough to interact meaningfully with matter, yet they exist. Their presence is a quiet reminder that the universe, even in its near-total darkness, is not truly empty. You sense the gentle elegance of this persistence, the soft poetry of existence continuing in almost imperceptible ways. There is an artfulness to the universe's approach, a patient care in letting the last light, the last energy, fade without abruptness. You feel the subtle roll of gravity, so diluted and weak that it only barely guides particles. Its influence is soft, almost like a whisper in the vast expanse, nudging matter ever so gently. You perceive that even as the universe approaches absolute stillness, the laws of physics continue to operate, not as harsh forces, but as meditative guides, ensuring that the cosmic dance of existence continues, softly, patiently, without urgency. You feel aligned with this rhythm, your own awareness moving in harmony with the universe's gentle flow. In this darkness, you reflect on the nature of endings. There is no dramatic conclusion, no abrupt cessation. The universe does not collapse or explode. It does not shout or vanish. Instead, it dissolves into soft, velvety stillness, an endless expanse of calm. You notice how profound this is, that even in the absence of stars, light, or activity, there is a form of completion that feels intimate and meditative. Endings can be gentle, and silence can be as full and meaningful as the most luminous events of the past. You drift past regions that were once dense with matter, now emptied and softened into near-perfect uniformity. Black dwarfs, iron stars, evaporated black holes. All have surrendered to time and entropy. What remains is an almost sacred quiet, a space that feels neither cold nor hot, neither energetic nor void. It simply exists. You feel a connection to this stillness, a sense that the universe has entered a contemplative phase, where persistence matters more than motion, and presence itself is sufficient. You sense that even in this profound darkness, there is a quiet pulse of potential. The absence of light does not mean absence of being. The faintest energies, the gentlest quantum fluctuations, continue their delicate dance, whispering that the cosmos is never entirely empty. You perceive the elegance of this final state. The universe has transitioned from the fiery birth of stars to the quiet dance of particles, and now into the ultimate calm of absolute darkness. You feel a reverent appreciation for the patient unfolding of existence, a meditation on persistence, transformation, and serenity. Finally, you drift into the heart of this absolute darkness. There is no brightness, no movement, no heat, yet there is an almost tactile quality to the calm. It is as if the universe itself has drawn a soft blanket over its long history, tucking itself in, breathing quietly and waiting. You sense that creation and dissolution, activity and stillness, all converge here in a perfect, gentle equilibrium. And as you float in this velvety black, a thought arises softly in your mind. If silence can be this profound, perhaps even the end is a beginning, and even darkness carries the seed of something yet to come. You float through the quiet darkness, where the universe has grown calm beyond measure. Even the last flickers of quantum light have thinned into almost imperceptible pulses, and absolute silence stretches in every direction. Yet, within this vast emptiness, there is something subtle, almost imperceptible. A presence that is not matter, not energy, but memory itself. You sense the traces left by everything that ever existed, patterns woven into the fabric of space and time, lingering like faint echoes of a cosmic song. The universe remembers, and this memory has a gentle, meditative quality that reaches you in ways that feel personal and intimate. You notice the subtle whispers of information embedded in the void. Particles that have long since decayed, black dwarfs that have cooled to darkness, and evaporated black holes have all left behind faint imprints. These are not dramatic signs of presence, but delicate hints, soft textures in the vast emptiness, like footprints pressed lightly into a cosmic sand. You feel your mind attuning to these impressions, sensing that each carries a story of creation, endurance, and dissolution. Even the universe's quietest moments have left a gentle mark, a memory that persists beyond physical substance. As you drift deeper, you perceive the faint remnants of structure that once defined galaxies, stars, and planetary systems. Spiral arms, dense clusters, and ancient orbits have all dissolved, yet their influence remains in subtle correlations among the scattered particles and photons. It is as if the universe has stored these patterns not in physical objects but in the very relationships between them. You sense that these are the universe's memories, quietly preserved, patiently enduring. They are not rigid, not permanent in the way you might imagine, but soft, flexible, and meditative, an echo of what once was. You notice that even quantum fluctuations have left a trace. The tiniest flickers, the ephemeral appearances and vanishings of particles, have created subtle imprints in the fabric of space. Each event, though fleeting, contributes to a diffuse tapestry of information. You feel as though you are witnessing the universe reading itself, remembering itself, not with urgency or need, but with calm, deliberate care. There is no pressure here, no fear of forgetting. Memory flows gently, like a stream tracing its path through a quiet landscape, leaving soft marks on the stones it touches. The memory of the universe is not uniform. Some regions preserve richer patterns than others, faint echoes of the densest stars and the most energetic events. You sense that these imprints carry the history of light and gravity, of matter and decay, of creation and dissolution. Even in the absolute quiet, these remnants resonate with a subtle rhythm, a soft pulse that you can almost feel. It is as though the cosmos is reciting a gentle poem, one that stretches across eons and is whispered through the delicate patterns of existence itself. You drift past the long-gone black holes, whose presence is now recorded only in the faint correlations of surrounding particles and radiation. The violent gravity that once shaped nearby space has dissipated, yet the memory of its pull remains encoded in the positions, velocities, and trajectories of the remnants. You feel a quiet reverence for this persistence, sensing that the universe does not discard the echoes of its history, but preserves them with patience and care. Even in dissolution, there is mindfulness, an elegance in the retention of subtle traces. You begin to perceive the gentle layering of information over time. The universe does not store memory like a hard record. Instead, it accumulates impressions softly, each event adding to the quiet mosaic of history. The decay of matter, the spread of radiation, the slow drift of particles, all contribute to a delicate layering, where past, present, and faint traces of what might have been intertwine. You feel your awareness blending with this cosmic memory, your consciousness softening to the pace and rhythm of these gentle patterns. There is comfort here, a sense of order without force, of persistence without urgency. You notice how memory in this context is not about retrieval or recognition, but about existence itself. The universe preserves its history as a natural outcome of its laws, as an intrinsic property of space, time, and matter. You sense that each particle, each subtle interaction, contributes to the overall recollection of all that has occurred. Memory becomes a living presence, soft and unhurried, a companion to the quiet passage of eons. It is not about holding on. It is about allowing traces to linger, gently and patiently, like a river marking its course through a landscape over centuries. The interplay of entropy and memory becomes clear. As the universe spreads toward uniformity, entropy smooths contrasts, diffuses energy, and simplifies structure. Yet in this simplification, subtle correlations remain, delicate patterns that encode the history of events. You sense that even as the cosmos approaches perfect equilibrium, these memories persist, small but significant, like soft whispers in the vastness. There is beauty in this subtle persistence, a meditative elegance in the way the universe balances dissolution with remembrance. You drift further, sensing the faint traces of energy that once coursed through stars, galaxies, and black holes. Even as photons vanish and matter dissolves, the memory of their paths, interactions, and influence lingers. It is a quiet record, woven into the underlying fabric of reality, faint yet persistent. You feel that the universe itself is aware, not consciously, but through the preservation of these delicate impressions. Memory, in this sense, is a form of existence, a gentle continuation of presence even as physical forms fade away. You notice that these memories are interconnected. Patterns of particles, remnants of radiation, and subtle gravitational influences form a web, linking past events across vast distances. It is not a web in the usual sense, with visible strands or tangible structure, but an invisible coherence, a quiet architecture that holds the story of the cosmos together. You feel yourself immersed in this web, sensing the vast, patient intelligence inherent in the preservation of cosmic memory. There is no need for speed, no need for recognition. The universe simply remembers, softly, patiently, endlessly. You begin to contemplate the meaning of this cosmic memory. Even as the universe grows silent, empty, and dark, it retains traces of its history, preserving patterns without effort, without urgency, simply as a natural consequence of its laws. There is a gentle comfort in this thought, a sense that even in endings, there is persistence, continuity, and quiet reverence. The universe, in remembering itself, offers a soft meditation on existence, loss, and the patient unfolding of time. Finally, you drift to a place where the last particles, faint remnants of black dwarfs, decayed matter, and diffused radiation converge. Here, the memory of the cosmos feels almost tangible, a gentle impression on the void. You sense that even as light fades, matter dissolves, and energy thins into invisibility, the universe retains a record of all that has been. It is a quiet, meditative archive, a soft imprint of every event, every flicker, every breath of creation. And as you float within this delicate memory, a gentle question arises. When all else fades, what does the universe choose to remember? And how does it hold that memory as it drifts toward the final dreaming of darkness? You drift through the profound silence of a universe stretched to its limits. Space is smooth and endless, particles are distant whispers, and time has become so slow it feels almost irrelevant. Light no longer travels because there is none left to travel. You are immersed in an infinite, velvety calm, where the universe seems to have paused in contemplative rest. Yet even in this ultimate stillness, you sense something subtle stirring, a faint tremor beneath the black, an imperceptible shift that speaks of potential, a quiet pulse beneath the vast calm. The darkness itself feels alive, not in the way of stars or galaxies, but as a patient presence, holding space for what may come. It is a silence that is deep, soft, and comforting, wrapping around you like a warm, invisible blanket. There is no urgency here, no fear, no pressing need for motion or light. The universe seems to inhale slowly, deliberately, as if gathering itself for a gesture too delicate and profound to be hurried. You feel the gentle tension in the stillness, a quiet preparation for something that is not yet, but might one day be. As you drift, you notice the tiniest flickers at the edges of perception. These are not particles or photons in the ordinary sense, but hints of nascent energy, almost imperceptible, trembling softly in the vast quiet. You sense them as whispers, tiny twitches in the fabric of the universe, subtle signals that the darkness is not empty, that possibility remains even here, at the end of everything. The black expanse feels like a deep ocean, and these small pulses are its first ripples, stretching slowly outward across the calm, infinite surface. You allow yourself to follow one of these faint pulses. It moves with a rhythm so slow it is almost imperceptible, yet deliberate. You sense that it is testing the waters of existence, exploring the possibilities within the quiet void. There is a softness to its motion, a meditative patience, as if the universe itself is feeling its own edges, discovering whether it is ready to move, to create, to breathe again. You float alongside it, attuning to its fragile rhythm, aware of the extraordinary patience of the cosmos. The pulse grows imperceptibly stronger, weaving through the darkness like a thread of thought. You sense that this is the universe remembering its own capacity for change. Even after eons of silence, after stars have cooled, matter has dissolved, and black holes have evaporated, the universe retains the faintest memory of creation. It stirs now, slowly, gently, holding on to the possibility of new beginnings without urgency or expectation. You feel the quiet majesty of this patient potential, a soft reassurance that even endings contain the seeds of what may come next. You notice how delicate this stirring is. There is no flash of light, no sudden emergence of matter, no dramatic gesture. Everything is slow, patient, and soft. The universe is feeling its own edges, testing the stillness for resonance, exploring the infinite quiet for the tiniest hint of possibility. You float in harmony with this rhythm, sensing that you are witnessing the very act of potential itself, a subtle prelude to creation, whispered across unimaginable distances and durations. The darkness is dreaming, and you are present within its dream. As the pulse continues, it spreads across the expanse, weaving an almost imperceptible pattern through space and time. You notice that the blackness, which seemed absolute, is now gently textured, subtly shifting, a quiet wave of potential moving through the void. It is not yet creation, not yet light, not yet matter. It is the soft preparation for what might emerge. You feel a profound reverence for this patient unfolding, aware that the universe has spent eons in rest, and that this gentle stirring is both delicate and inevitable. You sense the interconnectedness of all that has come before, the memory of stars, black holes, quantum flickers, and the final traces of matter all converge in this quiet potential. They whisper softly to each other, like distant voices in a cathedral of silence, harmonizing in a subtle rhythm that guides the nascent pulse. You perceive that endings are not absolute. They leave traces, frameworks, and memory upon which the next possibilities can emerge. Even in the deepest darkness, there is continuity, a patient lineage of existence preparing the way for something new. You drift closer to the source of the pulse, sensing it as an almost conscious exploration. It is feeling the void, testing the boundaries of emptiness, seeking a resonance in which it might grow. There is no hurry, no panic, only a deliberate awareness that arises from the deepest rest. You feel that the universe itself is meditating, and in this meditation, it discovers the first hint of potential, the faintest echo of future motion, the quiet anticipation of the first breath to come after eons of calm. The pulse grows more coherent, though still delicate and soft. You feel the subtle energy of possibility threading through the darkness, linking distant points across unimaginable scales. The universe holds this energy gently, like a parent cradling a newborn, aware of its fragility and its significance. You sense that this is the very first stirrings of what could eventually become motion, structure, and perhaps light. Even here, in the absence of stars and matter, the active potential is alive, fragile, and profound. You begin to notice the rhythm of the darkness itself adjusting to the pulse. Space seems to breathe in response, the fabric of the void gently undulating in harmony with the faint flicker. Time, too, responds, stretching and bending to accommodate this delicate stir. You feel yourself as part of this process, an observer and participant in a cosmic meditation that is both intimate and infinite. The universe is not yet awake, but it is dreaming, exploring the boundaries of possibility, holding the first traces of a future that is not yet written. You sense the enormity of what is happening. After eons of silence, the cosmos begins to feel the faintest pulse of its own potential. It is a quiet act, almost imperceptible, but imbued with infinite significance. You understand that endings are not permanent, that silence and darkness do not preclude the emergence of something new. The universe, having remembered itself and rested in patient equilibrium, is now ready to breathe again, to dream beyond the boundaries of what has been. You feel awe and intimacy at being present for this primordial moment. Finally, you drift within the soft pulse itself, sensing its fragility and its hope. The darkness around you is vast, velvety, infinite, yet within it, the faintest whisper of movement suggests that even in the deepest end, there is potential for beginning. You realize that the universe, in resting, remembering, and dreaming, has prepared the stage for what may come next. And as you float in this exquisite calm, a gentle, unspoken question forms in your mind. What will rise from this dreaming darkness, and how will the universe remember its first new breath?